Hello everybody, my name is Jose Gardner with Team POI. Earlier this year, Burris released their new top-of-the-line tactical and competition scope, the xtr3. I'm lucky enough to have both magnifications that have been offered, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about both of them today. So as I mentioned, today we're going to take a look at the new Burris xtr3. Not a lot of information out there about this. I've actually got about 6 of them because I have just absolutely fallen in love, and I want to get that information out there for people that have similar applications as I do. So as you see on my rifle here, I actually have the 5.5 by 30 with the xtr2 mil reticle, a new reticle that's been released by Burris that I love. And I also actually have a 3-18 that rode my hunting gun for most of this season. I'm actually in the middle of a change. This isn't on top of anything, but I'll be able to talk a little bit about both in general. Up front, what are you going to want to know? You're going to want to know that the glass is greatly improved from the xtr2. Let's be honest, the xtr2 was an absolute great scope. My favorite turret system, probably just absolutely simple. Tank of a scope, could not break it, absolutely durable, easy to use. It just fell a little bit short on the glass. The xtr3, I'm telling you, there's nothing, I haven't found anything on the market yet that touches the value of the glass. What do I mean by that? Sure, it's not a tangent theta, but frankly, I was looking online. I think like on Amazon, you can buy this scope, the 5.5 by 30 with xtr2 mil for like $18.50, brand new out the door. There's not another scope in the sub $2,500 range that is going to beat. It'll be there with it, but it's not going to leave this scope on glass. Just like the xtr2, same simple knobs. Actually, one cool feature though, if you'll notice, this windage is actually capped. It's great though because you can still, the underneath can still be zeroed. It's just a smaller knob, and then it actually comes with a larger knob for competition purposes. Let's say instead of field use or hunting use, that is more of your typical just windage exposed windage knob. I love that you have the flexibility to do both. Some pretty cool features. We're actually going to go to how this comes in the package, and I'll discuss a few more as well. Okay, so as I mentioned, we'll unbox it. This is actually my 3-18, and obviously I have unboxed it before as I used it for hunting season, but I have put it back to exactly how it comes from factory essentially. And for those of you wondering, the 5.5 to 30 will come exactly the same way, other than there's about this much longer of a foam cut. You can actually tell where it goes to allow for the longer scope. Aside from that, we'll just start with, we've got the user guide here. That comes pretty standard, a little bit of glass cleaner, and then your wrench. One wrench comes with it and can pretty much achieve anything you need to as far as adjusting the scope. Next, we'll pull the scope out. First thing you notice is the scope cap. So the front ones, I'm not the biggest scope cap fan in the world, but these are pretty easy to use and super snug. Pretty positive control there. For the back. For the front, it's almost Butler Creek style. Button flips it up and back. Go ahead and pop that off so we can talk about the rest. So we've got sunshade here. Once again, I'm not a huge sunshade user, but for those of you who are, it comes with it and it's pretty dang nice. So if we look at the scope a little farther, a couple features. Obviously there's a lot of texturing here. The knurled knobs are rather substantial. That paid dividends for me a couple weekends ago, shooting in the about 8 degrees outside, shooting with gloves. It was still pretty easy to manage, to use. I do know there's a throw lever coming out that just announced at SHOT Show, hopefully orderable soon, that'll work for this or the xtr2. So a great option for you for the mag ring. And I'll talk to you about 2 of my more favorite features. One is the capped windage and the ability to make it a non-capped windage. So one, I can remove the cap, and even what's underneath the lock is still, if I can get this to focus, is a return to zero type knob. So let's say I'm walking around hunting, got it capped, screw it off, need to take a long shot, need to dial some wind, boom, dial it, or decide not to take the shot, pop her back to zero, screw the cap back on, and I'm on my way. So that's really nice. Or for a more competitive use, you can actually put on, if we can see here, we'll get her worked out there. There is an exposed knob that's about the same as the one that goes over for the non-exposed. You use a couple screws, put it on tight, set it at 0, and it works exactly like the XTR2 knobs. Good amount of flexibility there, really like that. Now, the final feature that I want to mention at this stage is the fact that the reticle focus has this locking ring, so I can unscrew it, focus wherever I need to, and then cinch her down pretty tight. And now my reticle focus is going nowhere, especially with the back, back scope caps. It's really nice that that's not going to throw it off, as well as just going in and out of your pack. I've had problems in the past where some that didn't lock tended to get out of place pretty quick. All right, so I'm going to quickly go over some specs real quick. I don't want to insult anybody's intelligence. You can go right to the website. It's really informational of Burris. But this is a 5.5 to 30. One of the main things that I think I thought about when it came out is I'm actually very interested in both ELR 22 and actually ELR centerfire was the internal elevation. Now, the 3.5 to 18 is actually 120 MOA or 35 mils internal. The 5.5 to 30 is more like 90 MOA or 26 mils internal. Sounds a little bit less than maybe what some of the scopes people are comparing this to. You know, your Night Force ATAC R, your Razor Gen 2, maybe your Schmidt, those mid 2000 Schmidts. But when you really think about the practicality of what you're going to use it for, I'm going to use this for the ELR match, the Q Creek match in Wyoming this coming summer. It's going to be ran on a 6.5 PRC. 6.5 PRC needs right at 15 mils at their elevation to get to a mile, right? So when you think about this, it has 26 mils built in. You know, you get a 20 MOA rail. Maybe you get some cant built into your rings with some of the Burris rings, and all of a sudden you've got more elevation than most people are going to know what to do with. For your more common competition, your NRL 22, your normal NRL PRS, or just long range plinking, you're 10 mils or less all the time. You're going to have plenty. So absolutely plenty capable there. Now let's talk about a couple of the upgrades that I really love. Let's say over the XTR2, we mentioned that the glass is just an absolute upgrade. I really love it. The reticle, so this is the SCR2 reticle, and actually all of the ones that I own currently, I'm a big fan of the 0.2 mils graduations for elevation as well as wind, not just for wind. Absolutely love using holdovers, and so I think they really knocked it out of the park. It's not a busy reticle whatsoever. Really enjoy using that. One thing is interesting is the parallax. So the parallax on the 5.5 to 30 is goes down to 20 yards. On the 3.3 to 18, it actually goes down to 25. Not as low, but still very close. Plenty for 22 work, etc. Inside of 150 yards, it's actually pretty picky. You can't set it at 75 and get a real clear picture at 100. But what I have noticed that I actually enjoy more than most scopes that I've ever used is that not only is it picky, but it actually is also really dang crisp. So when I do get it on perfectly at 100, I believe I get a much significantly clearer picture than a vast majority of the scopes I've used. The call it 624, the Gen 2 Razor, just to give you some reference. So right inside of 150, it's picky. Love that for 22 work or just for load, workup, perfect zeros, etc. Outside of that 150, 200, it still becomes a set it and forget it. You got targets between 3 and 6. You just put it on 400 and let it go. So it is a very, very functional scope, and I think it's very interesting that they developed a package that I, who am honestly pretty much an optics snob, have really, I'm very confident in it on my 22, all the way out to ELR work and everything in between, long range hunting, etc. Now, I'm going to show you a little bit of a comparison, the 3 to 18 compared to the 5 to 30. The 3 to 18 is significantly shorter. It actually comes in lighter as well, is at just under 30 ounces, which makes it, you know, we obviously want light backpacking guns, but 30 ounces for a dedicated long-range hunting rig is pretty easy. But now where I think you draw the distinction, the 5 to 30 is very easy to get behind. I've had several new shooters who have just absolutely used it with no problem whatsoever. Very forgiving eye box. My personal experience, and I've only shot maybe 50 rounds or so through the 3.3 to 18, is that the eye box is a hair pickier. I say that saying that I also pulled it out of the box, sighted in a gun with it, and shots 10 and 11 out of both the gun, brand new gun, and the scope were impacts at 1100 yards on a 16-inch plate. It wasn't holding me back, but it is not as easy or seamless to get behind as the 5.5 to 30. I've got to play with it enough to see if that's a me issue or if that is just inherent of those lower powered xtr3s, but take that for what you will. That has been my experience. So, like I say, I mean, there's a lot of great features I love on here. The fact that I can switch my wind knobs, the fact that the turrets are just absolutely smooth and easy. I love the texturing, as I mentioned before. You know, I love it enough that I've got 6 of them because it just makes it really easy to have the same scope on everything. Very capable for every use I put it through: varmint hunting, normal hunting, and my heavier uses, which are PRS competition, or let's say NRL 22 competitions as well. Honestly, at the price point that it comes in significantly just under, you know, a certain very popular range of your scopes, the 624Is, the Gen 2 razors, etc. And I think it doesn't give up anything, and in my personal mind, it beats them. And that would be regardless of the money. When you take into account where the price at, it's just a better value in my opinion. Take that for what you will. Everybody's got personal preferences, but if you're looking for a value scope that's going to be a one and done, buy once, cry once kind of deal, I definitely recommend giving the xtr3 a look. If you enjoyed this, make sure you keep up with Team POI both on social media, on all of our pages, as well as the website. There'll be more content coming out. Thanks for your time.